Hello and welcome to this videocast for subscribers to davidicke.com. Well, the picture behind me will bring back a lot of memories for people as old as I am, because it is an image of students in the 1960s protesting and campaigning for freedom of speech. Now, there are still many young people who do that and can see the deletion of that freedom unfolding by the day all around the world. But it's very clear too that universities and colleges, academia in general, around the world, not least in the United States and Britain, are being taken over by another type of student. The politically correct zealots and extremists who have unleashed a war unknowingly, because they're not very bright, unknowingly on behalf of the state, to destroy freedom of speech by attacking, condemning, banning those who have a different view and a different opinion to them. Now, if you are not radical and passionate about freedom when you are a teenager, a student, a young person, then when are you going to be? Because what is happening is the freedom, the basic freedoms that have been taken for granted in the past are now being deleted so fast, not least helped by these moronic people. And it's not going to end here. That's not the idea. It's only where we are now. The idea is to keep advancing this war on freedom and freedom of expression, freedom of thought, until there's none left. And who is going to have to live in that world? The very young people who are in colleges and universities today. And this is not about protecting people from racism, from discrimination, from bias, because anyone with half a brain cell knows that that is not the way we should be living our lives, treating people as different or inferior because they have a different skin color, a different religion, or they're a different sex, or whatever they call themselves. I have a simple philosophy. Do what you like so long as you don't impose it on anyone else. Work that one through and you'll see it's not a bad philosophy for life. So I'm absolutely against discrimination of any kind on the basis that someone is different. But tell me, we had more different people, isn't it? But that is not what this is about. Political correctness, which is promoted and imposed by these silly, unthinking, self-obsessed people, is about taking away the right to free opinion, free debate, free thought in the end, and certainly free expression. And without that, there is no freedom. All other freedoms depend upon that. And yet we have now reached the point where people like Peter Tatchell and Germaine Greer, who have long histories of campaigning in Germaine Greer's case against discrimination against women, and in Peter Tatchell's case, a long, long history of campaigning for rights for gay people, for transgender people, for freedom and equality in general. But we have reached the point when these flag bearers from way back of what these politically correct zealots and extremists claim to represent are turning on them and condemning them for being politically incorrect or upsetting people or being discriminatory against people. It's absolute madness. And what that is, what these attacks on those people and others like them confirm, is how this whole political correct insanity has gone well beyond the point where it was about ending discrimination and bringing about equality. If it ever was. I suggest it wasn't, because this has been planned a long time to take freedom away and stop free debate and free flow of information and opinion. But it's clear now, if it ever was, it's gone way past that in its agenda. We hear this word all the time, diversity. We hear about tolerance. It's all about political correctness. It's about diversity and tolerance. Well, I've been going on what seems like forever about the fact that this world is an inversion. Everything is inverted. And here we have the most stunning classic example. We have a political correct mafia, a political correct tyranny that claims to be based on diversity and tolerance when its whole aim is to destroy diversity and tolerance, to destroy diversity of opinion, diversity of thought, diversity of idea, diversity of view, and to destroy tolerance for those views that are different to what others may hold. And without that diversity, and without that tolerance of diversity of thought, view, and idea, this world simply cannot move on. It never would have moved on without people challenging the norms and showing them to be unsustainable in terms of credibility, that there are other ways of doing things that are far more effective and far more, in terms of human society, have far more equality, far more fairness, far more justice. But now we have this tyranny that is telling people what they cannot think, in effect, what they cannot say, what they cannot express, and what they can't. And what they can and what they can't depends on the opinions of the representative of the tyranny, wherever it may be. We have had so many, oh, wake me up, mother, take me home, it's mad down here. We've had so many examples of the extreme nonsense and doublethink that we are now dealing with. We had a diversity officer at a London university banning or trying to ban men and white people from an event to promote equality. And you know, these people are so confused, they're so far up their own arse in need of a torch, that they can actually make sense of the nonsense like that they speak. Because when you look at it, minorities cannot be, whatever they are, and minorities of course change around the world, but minorities cannot be politically incorrect against majorities. Follow that through, you'll see it's true. So a majority or a perceived majority in whatever part of the world it is, in some parts of the world, of course, white people are the minority. But if you look at the way it works, in any situation, the perceived majority cannot be discriminated against by a minority. A minority cannot say things that are politically incorrect about a majority. Only the majority can do that. And so take the example of the diversity officer I've just talked about. In her mind, and some of them have absolutely said this and been quoted on it, confirming it, that because they are a minority, they cannot be politically incorrect. So in their mind, seeking to ban white people and men from a meeting promoting equality makes perfect sense in their fevered, bewildered minds. And I would say this to those people, in their arrogance, in their intolerance, in their self-censored belief that they can dictate the thoughts and opinions of others. Look at people who had the courage. It's not like, oh, please, sir, he's just said something that disagrees with me. He should be banned. Not that attitude of you people. The real people of courage that made a difference to equality, to fairness, to justice. People like the suffragettes. Do you think the suffragettes might have upset people? I think they might just have done. But what did they do? They got justice, at least some level in terms of voting, for women. Do you think Martin Luther King might have just upset a few people? Just a little bit. When he was campaigning for justice, fairness, freedom, equality for black people in America. Do you think politically correct extremist zealots that Martin Luther King gave his life so that students could be offered counselling because they happened to see by accident a sticker of a Confederate flag on a laptop? Do you think Martin Luther King gave his life so that California students are asked to apply for free speech permits? Do you think Martin Luther King gave his life so that Democrats in California would call for the terms husband and wife to be banned because they were gendered terms that might discriminate against gay people, which is itself, of course, a gendered term? Minority, majority, think again, same thing recurring. It's unbelievable. The people with courage who stood up against real injustice, real unfairness, real discrimination, are now being insulted and, in the terms of people like Peter Tatchell, turned upon by these self-appointed dictators and censors. It's unbelievable that people stand for this. And where does it end? That's the point. What is it really all about? You see, the world is full of people who are playing a crucial part in destroying freedom and imposing the will of the state upon the population, while being so ignorant, like I say, often because they're so far up their own arse, that they can't see that that's what they're doing. I've talked about the plan, which is clearly unfolding by the day, just look at it, for what I call the Hunger Games society, where the tiny few, less than 1%, dictate to the rest of the, by then, in poverty masses, and I mean people who today are considered well off, but are not in the less than 1%. And in between the two, imposing the will of the less than 1% on the masses is designed to be a vicious, merciless police state. Crucial to the success of that and the ongoing imposition of it is to stop its exposure and to stop the expression and circulation of thought, ideas, information, opinions which challenge that structure and the forces of fascism that are imposing that structure, piece by piece, all the time. So political correctness, when you do the research, didn't come out of nowhere suddenly. It came out of the social engineering networks that this cabal operates to manipulate public opinion and to suppress freedom of thought and expression. What political correctness is all about is making it unacceptable for people to say anything that is of any significance whatsoever. And when you look at George Orwell's book, 1984, he has the concept of old speak and new speak. And as I explained in my own books, 1984, like Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, were not just novels. They were coming from an idea of where this world was being taken, and it was planned to be taken. That's why they turned out to be so accurate. And in 1984, Orwell talks about this old speak and new speak. Old speak was the language of before the tyranny, which had the words that could express detail, that could express a view, a concept, an idea in detail. This was being replaced by the Big Brother tyranny, by newspeak. These were words that couldn't actually say anything. Meaningless words with no substance and no ability to express detail. Look at the language of political correctness. It is the language of newspeak. And political correctness is here to silence anyone with an opinion and a view that is against what the state wants people to hear. And of course, what they've done, because the few are controlling the many, they have to get the many to control each other. This is how it works right across society. Just look at it. There it is to see. And so, what political correctness does, it plays minorities off against majorities, even minorities against minorities as well. So everyone is running round saying, you can't say that because it upsets me. Now, this idea of you can't be upset is absolute nonsense. How do you grow as a person without being upset and therefore having your perceptions challenged so that they can open to other possibilities? How can you grow as a person without being upset and therefore caused to look at your own behavior and to see why people are upset with you? Being upset is part of life. It's part of growing up. And like I say, all the great campaigners for justice and fairness and equality throughout history have upset people. Do you think Gandhi upset anyone? But now we have this thing in universities called safe spaces, where you can't say anything that will upset anyone. And people who are perceived, like Jermaine Greer at one university, who are going to come in and maybe upset someone by what they say, oh, God, call the police. They're unplatformed in the political correct newspeak term that they use. In other words, they're banned. How do you do anything without upsetting someone? Let me give it a try. There you go. Someone out there watching this, more than someone, has gone, what's he bloody doing? Get on with it. What's he looking at the bloody wall for? That's ridiculous. You know what? You see what he's just done? That's ridiculous what he's just done. So what I've done is I've just looked at the wall and said nothing. And yet I would have upset some people by doing that. And the point I'm clearly making is you can't do anything without upsetting someone. And that is the point. Political correctness is about, in effect, forcing people into corners where they can't do anything of significance, say anything of significance, think anything of significance, believe anything of significance, if they're going to express that. And these politically correct, ludicrous people are guards at the gate to the concentration camp of human thought and human expression. Look at how it's been used by the extremists in the Zionist movement to stop legitimate questioning, criticism of the regime in Israel and its treatment of Palestinians. You say something about Israel, you're not talking about Jewish people, you're talking about the regime in Israel. But no, you're anti-Semitic. Mustn't be allowed to say that. And that's just one example. And it was basically a forerunner in many ways of using the term and the label anti-Semitism to stop legitimate questioning of Israel. It was the forerunner of what we're seeing now, being expanded right across human society. That is called political correctness. And my question is this: how long is the student population going to stand for this? You are looking at only where we are now in terms of where this is supposed to go. Not just in universities and colleges, but the world in general. You are going to have to live in that world. Your kids are going to have to live in that world in even more extreme states as it moves on. Are you going to accept this fascist tyranny dictating to your right to have an opinion, to have an idea, to have a view? Are you going to stand by and be intimidated by these people? Or are you going to stand up and express your basic human right to express yourself as you see fit? What changes things, what makes things better, what has always improved equality, justice, fairness, has been vigorous, free, open debate to expose the way that people are denied justice, fairness, and equality. It's not by banning them. What if Martin Luther King had been banned from speaking out? What if Gandhi had been banned from speaking out? And yet, the up their own arse zealots think they are the bastion of purity. Oh, look at the heart on my sleeve. I'm ever so good. You are running a tyranny, and you're too bloody stupid to see it.